Algebra 1, Lesson 76, Consecutive Integers. Now, these are some very, very entertaining problems, and they really test your skill as far as algebraic expressions, turning words into equations, and then solving these equations. And we also get to apply a little bit of logic at the same time. Now, some of you may be tempted to try to solve these problems logically. I'm going to tell you most of the time that is going to be met with failure. It's very, very difficult to solve these problems logically without using the actual methods that are taught in the book. So let's first talk about what consecutive integers are. We know that these are a set of integers. All of our negative, from 0 to negative infinity and 0 to positive infinity, all of those numbers. What they mean by the word consecutive is they follow after one another. So, for example, if I were to pick 3 consecutive integers, starting with -4, that would be -4, -3, -2. 3 integers, they are consecutive, right? Or let's say I did 2 consecutive integers, starting with 3. Well, 3 and then 4, 2 integers, they are consecutive. Or 4 consecutive integers, starting with 1. Or no, let's go with -2. 4 consecutive integers, starting with -2. That would be -2, -1, 0, and 1. 4 numbers, all integers, and they are consecutive. Now, the trick to these problems is going to be how we write these unknowns. For example, let's go to a tougher one. Let's do 76.2. They tell us to find 3 consecutive integers or 3 consecutive numbers such that twice the sum of the first is 2 less than 3 times the third. Now, I need to turn this sentence into an equation. The problem is, how do I write the first integer, the second integer, the third integer? Well, they use these designations right here, n plus 1, n plus 2. Now, the reason for that is because if you look at the distance between consecutive numbers, we'll look at here. Let's say I choose the numbers 1, 2, and 3. If the first number is x, what is the distance between x and the next number, or 1 and 2? It is a distance of 1. So x plus 1 will equal the next number. Now, if I want to get to the third number, what's the distance between the first number and the third number? 1, 2. So x plus 2 will equal the third number, which is why they use n plus 1, n plus 2, and then if they add a third one, n plus 3. And that's the trick to finding our consecutive integers. So let's go back to the problem. I need to find 3 consecutive integers such that twice the sum of the first. Okay, so let's write down twice the sum of the first. So I want 2 times the sum of the first. So the first is n. Sum means plus. Sum is an answer, so I'm going to want to put that in parentheses. So the sum of the first. Let's see here, twice the sum of the first 2. Oh, the first 2 integers. So the first integer plus the second integer. The second integer is n plus 2. So n plus 2. 2 times that. And so twice the sum of the first 2 is my equal sign. I'll go ahead and write that down. I'm going to yank you guys back and forth. All right, so I've gotten that out of the way. 2 less than 3 times the third. 2 less than 3 times the third. So they start off with 2 less, but that actually means -2. So 2 less than 3 times the third. So I'm going to put -2 all the way at the end. 3 times the third number. So 3 times parentheses n plus 2. That's the third number. Oh no, I made a mistake. Okay, remember how it said the sum of the first 2? I made a classic blunder. Okay, so the first number is n. The second number is n plus 1, not n plus 2. Let's fix this. All right, so n plus 1, not 2. N plus 1. Okay, now I've got my equation. From here, I'm going to go ahead and solve. I'll simplify this side using distributive property. 2n plus 2n plus 2 equals 3n plus 6 minus 2. I'll do a little bit more simplification here. I'll combine like terms on each side. That becomes 4n plus 2. This side, we get 3n plus 4. And then I'm going to go ahead and start moving all my n's to one side. So we'll subtract 2 from each side, and then we'll subtract 3n from each side. So when I do this, that gives me 4n minus 3n is n. These cancel, and then 3n minus 3n cancels, and then 4 minus 2 is 2. So now I know that n equals 2. But I'm not done. Now remember, I'm looking for 3 consecutive numbers. So if n is 2, then n plus 1 equals 3, and n plus 2 equals 4. So my numbers are 2, 3, and 4. And that's it. Is that all we're doing in this lesson? Consecutive integers? Yeah, that's it. Okay, one side note that you guys should be careful of. What if our n was a negative number? So let's say n equaled negative 4, right? What would n plus 1 be? No, not negative 5, negative 3. Some of you probably did say negative 3, and that's fine. Good job, you were right. Now, and the reason why is because if I take negative 4 plus 1, the next number is going to be negative 3, and then n plus 2 is going to be negative 2. So if you're doing negative integers and your first number is a negative, remember you got to count. To the right, which seems like you're counting down, but you're actually counting up. So it'd be negative 4, negative 3, negative 2. And again, I'll go ahead and show that to you on the number line. If we start at negative 4, the next number is negative 3, then negative 2. So that's what I mean when I say count to the right instead of count up. Because if we did negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, that would have been backwards. All right, so try to avoid making that mistake. That's it for this lesson. If you have any questions, let me know on Moodle, and I will see you in class.